differences, but nothing's more important than family. I'm proud we're family!
Hello once again, watchers of good movies. My name is Nick Pell and this is my review of Coco. Now, this is the latest film to come from Disney Pixar. It is about a young boy named Miguel. He is an aspiring musician, but his family is very anti-music. They're one of the only families in his city who just don't like music for a reason which is explained. Because very long ago, many years ago, the husband of one of their ancestors decided to leave to become a great musician and never returned, and so they just despise music for that reason. So on the Dia de los Muertos celebration, he decides to go and participate in this talent show, show off his musician skills, and he decides to take the guitar of this famous musician who has died. And upon doing so, he finds himself in the afterlife, and the only way to escape it is by finding this great musician and getting a blessing from him to basically go back to the real world and pursue music. Miguel as a character was actually quite cool. He is a guy who, like I said, is very much into music. He is just in love with it. He's a big fan of Ernesto de la Cruz, who's that famous musician person, and he worships the guy basically. So you get to see kind of where his inspiration comes from and how that all affects his personality. Now, the afterworld aspects of this, like the land of the dead type of place that the majority of this film takes place in, it looks fantastic. The animation in this film is great, and that's to be expected with Disney Pixar type of stuff. They do a very short preview, kind of a behind-the-scenes type of thing, right before the movie starts, which is about a minute long, between the Frozen short and the actual movie. And they talk about how every single building, every single light was specifically made and developed in the program that they made this movie on. And so you can tell the amount of detail which went into this thing. And it all paid off spectacularly because the film looks amazing. Music is also a big part of this film, if you hadn't guessed that already. And the songs they have throughout the film are very fun. It's not a musical by any means of the imagination, but they do have songs in the film which are performed. And so take that as you will, I guess. Seeing how much of a role music has throughout the course of the story and in the lives of this family is a really neat thing to see, because music isn't normally the centerpiece of any of these big stories that you see out of Disney or whatever major studio. There's also a big focus on family because, like I said, the film mainly deals with Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, and in Mexico, and people who celebrate that tradition, it's basically the idea that family members who have passed on, they're able to come back to the land of the living, celebrate with living relatives, see living relatives, and as long as you're being remembered, as long as your picture is up on this pedestal of sorts, you are remembered. And it's a really cool concept because it really shows the emphasis on family and the idea that if eventually somebody forgets you and does not pass along your stories, you will eventually fade away. And that's kind of a sad thing, and does touch on that a little bit throughout the course of the film, but I found it to be really interesting. The main issue that I have with the film, however, is that it is a little bit predictable in regards to its story. There's a twist which happens about halfway through, which I saw coming from a mile away, just based on other films which I've seen, which you can kind of guess where this is probably going to go, along with the kind of reveal, per se, shortly after that. So I wasn't really terribly surprised by a whole lot which happened in regards to the plot for this film. That said, it was still immensely entertaining. I still had a really good time watching the film, watching the story play out, even though it was a little bit predictable as to how this whole thing was going to end up by the end of the credits. And then the ending and resolution of this film is also very fun to see, because you get to see how it wraps up, and it's all done very beautifully, musically, and it's just a fun ending to see play out throughout the course of this film. So guys, in regards to Coco, I really enjoyed it. I won't touch on what the meaning of Coco is. It's something that you kind of have to watch the film and then think about and then realize afterwards as to basically why this film is called Coco, because it has kind of a deeper meaning that you wouldn't expect if you're just watching the trailers or something of that sort. But I definitely say check this thing out. If you have kids, definitely bring them to this film. They might get a little bit bored. There are some kids in my theater who had to leave once or twice because they're getting crabby or what have you. I don't know. I was towards the front, so I didn't see everything. But it is roughly 2 hours with the Frozen short, which is about 20 minutes, so just know that going in. I don't think some people or some parents were expecting that to happen for 20 minutes before the film started, so just know that going in. Guys, those are my thoughts on Coco. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I appreciate it immensely. And as always, many people, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on watching.